Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, in American history, and all history actually, we often explore what we would call the heroes of history, and that's well and good. We should do that. But in order to capture the whole story of American history in particular, and actually all of history in the world, we need to look at some villains here and there. And that's our goal with this episode as we travel back to the end of the Civil War, where one notorious scoundrel left his mark on history by murdering the President of the United States. Let's explore the American villain John Wilkes Booth and his notorious murder of President Abraham Lincoln following the Civil War. Now, Booth was a consummate actor, having grown up in a large family of actors, and according to sources, he was apparently a man of great insecurity who often lived in the shadow of his older siblings. Now, he was only 26 years old when the Confederacy surrendered to the Union in April of 1865. Booth was a Southerner and loyal to the rebel cause, but he was a native of the swing state Maryland. He had not fought in the war, and historians believe he was dead set on making a dramatic tide-turning mark in the South's history, despite the fact that he was not a Confederate soldier. So he set his sights on a plot to assassinate the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, who had just brilliantly guided the nation through the Civil War and had a plan in place to reunify the broken country in the war's aftermath. That plan would never come to fruition because of the events of Good Friday, April 14, 1865. Now, Booth had grown into a talented Washington, D.C. actor, and he learned that President Lincoln and his wife would be attending a play at the Ford's Theater in D.C. that evening. Now, along with several conspirators, Booth's plan was simple. He would sneak into the president's box in plain sight, which would have not raised an eyebrow, as Booth was one of the premier actors at that particular theater and therefore a well-known personality with extensive access. He would fire a fatal shot at the president's head and escape on a horse ready for him outside the theater. Well, the plan went almost that way. Booth sneaked into the president's box and shot Lincoln from point-blank range before leaping off the balcony and onto the stage. Now, Booth broke his leg from the fall, but still managed a dramatic exit where he shouted "Sic semper tyrannis," which in Latin means "thus ever the tyrants." He would then make his way to his horse, but he would not make it far in his escape. He and his posse would be cornered by Union troops in a barn where he was shot and killed. Now, rumors rose in the years that followed that Booth's body was falsely identified and that he actually escaped to live a long life in the South, but those rumors carry little weight. What does carry weight, however, was the harm that Booth caused not only to the Union, but also to the South in particular. He meant to justify the South in his actions, but in the end, he only hurt it. The reason for this is Lincoln was the ideal man for the job to bring the Union back together, possessing both the justice to punish the South appropriately and make sure that the African American citizens had the freedom that they needed, granting of full citizenship to them, while also possessing the grace to welcome the states back to the Union. Lincoln would die, of course, several hours after the shooting. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.